my name's Alisha. I'm 26 years old, and for a long time in my life I struggled with looking for love in all the wrong places. My life began, I grew up in an Adventist Christian home, and that was all great till I was about 9 years old when my mum had an affair on my dad, and obviously they split up after that, and that was a pretty massive thing in my life. At the time, just being the oldest child of three and being the only one that really could understand what was going on. After that, I was living with my mum and my stepdad, and my dad left the country for about 12 months because I guess it was just his way to cope with everything. And interestingly enough, it wasn't long after that I had my first boyfriend. And I remember as a kid, you know, from kind of age 10 and onwards, just sort of being boy crazy and boy obsessed. And when my dad sort of left the picture, not out of his choice really, I started to really, I guess, look for value from guys to, I guess, make myself feel special or that someone loved me. I kept going to church, even though I lived with my mum and stepdad. Us kids still attended church, and I was quite involved, and even when I was 15 I decided to get baptised. I did love Jesus and I wanted to commit my life to him, but again, it wasn't till after I was baptised that I ended up getting in quite a serious relationship with a guy. I was only 15 at the time, and that lasted for about 2 years, and you know, that whole time I was still doing the church thing, but I was with this guy, and you know, towards the end of those 2 years, I really felt that God was convicting me that I was living in a life of sin and kind of being this hypocrite, this person that was at the front of church but was kind of not really living a life that matched that. And so I ended that relationship, and around that time I started to, for the first time in my life, really understand or start to see and understand that Jesus' death and his choice to come and die actually was for my sins. Like the things in my life that I knew I'd done wrong, I actually felt like, man, like that's why Jesus came. And I started to feel very overwhelmed with that. And I remember this one night I was at a youth meeting, and we were all out the back just praying, and as one of my friends was praying, I don't even remember what they were saying, but I just remember just being in this moment where I just had this overwhelming feeling of God's love and his grace towards me, despite the silly decisions I'd made in my life. And I remember just confessing my heart out to God and feeling forgiven for all those things that, you know, that I knew I could see in my life that I'd done wrong. And from that point, there was a real turning point in my life where I began to just fall in love with Jesus and who he is as a person, and realize his love for me. And at the same time that this happened, I began to have a real passion for his word. It just started coming alive to me. I remember one day at school sitting outside the art room, and for some reason I had a Bible on me, because I remember opening it up and reading Psalms 51. And when I read Psalms 51, it was as if like the words on the page in front of me were the very words of my heart. You know, David's just pouring out his heart because he realized that the sin in his life had been something that had separated him from his God, and I was just feeling exactly the same way. And I was like, what the, like this guy that lived like thousands of years ago is saying stuff that like I completely related to. And so from that time on, I started to just fall in love with God through his word as well. And I mean, that wasn't the end of the story for me. I still, you know, through my late teens, still struggled with finding my value through the attention that I would get from guys and things like that. And it actually, again, another point was when I was about 22 years old, that I finally came to this realization that the love I'd been looking for my whole life, the love I was trying to find in relationships and things like that, could only actually come from God, and that he was the only person who fully knew me 100% knew everything about me and yet at the same time fully loved me. And that realization, again, just changed my life when I realized that I didn't need to try and find the perfect husband or, the perfect partner, but that God could be the one that completely satisfied my heart and the desires of my heart. And since then, I've been able to walk with Him in that relationship and know that my value comes from Him.